This is my dedicated theater room. This has an 11 channel setup. And I guess I just wanted to give a little bit of background of how my room is currently set up and what I think the new Emotiva amp is going to bring to the table. I currently have everything running off of my Pioneer receiver, which is an 11 channel Class D receiver. So right now I have it set up as a 7.1.4 setup. In other words, 7 bed layer channels and 4 overhead channels plus the 2 subwoofers. So I guess it's a .2. Technically, to be honest, I find the current setup has been serving me quite well. It's more than meeting my needs as far as volume. I've gotten a lot of comments throughout the years telling me how awesome a dedicated separate amplifier is and how much more dynamic everything will become. I've been curious about it. I always thought that I would go eventually get an external amp or completely upgrade and go to separates in my theater. I really haven't felt the need. Maybe I just don't know what I've been missing. Before I bought my SVS PB3000s, I thought I was fine with the suds built into my Definitive Technology towers, but I was wrong. Dedicated subwoofers, standalone subwoofers, took the theater to a whole new level. Every time I watch an action movie, or pretty much any movie in this room, I am very happy that I actually made the switch to standalone subwoofers. Even though I do employ the super towers and the SVSs at the same time, and I kind of tuned it, but and it all works really well. I'm really happy I did make the switch. So I'm not expecting the same amount of a benefit. Enhancing the bass response in your room is probably one of the best things and more impactful things you can do in your theater, as far as giving you that real theater feeling when you feel the bass moving your chair a little bit and vibrating your chair a little bit. I think that's something, giving you that tactile feeling. That really does provide the biggest upgrade in your movie theater, just getting really good solid subs. And I feel like I've accomplished that here. But the buying this Emotiva amp is kind of like my first step into, I guess, the next stage of my home theater room. You could say the next iteration, because I do plan on eventually moving up to a 4K projector and separates, just getting a dedicated processor and external amplification all the way. Probably going to integrate it into some kind of control 4 setup. It's going to be really cool, but that's more down the line. If you're interested in my my home theater room, I have a whole video dedicated to that, which goes into pretty good detail, and I talk about every speaker, my acoustic paneling, and my home, my chairs, my platform, my risers, which help give my second row a better vantage point, I should say. And I go into that in great detail. So I'll leave a link at that in the description and a card up there on the top there. So hope you like it. Right now I'm just going to go ahead and unbox the amplifier, so I'll show you that now. The new amplifier is going to displace my home theater PC, so first thing I'm going to do is move it out of the way and maybe lower some of these shelves, so it doesn't look like there's such a big gaping gap between the amplifier and the next shelf. I actually had to move a bunch of shelves up just to fit this home theater PC. But I'm actually going to put there's an unfinished storage room behind here, so I'm just going to put the PC in there. Would have worked just fine. It's mostly being used as a server right now. I also do playback. I use Kodi DS Player, which is along with MadVR, and that allows me to play. I do most of my playback through there because I'm still using my 5030 UB, which is an SDR projector. In other words, it doesn't accept HDR signals. So yeah, so far that's been the best solution that I've found. So, but yeah, let's make way. It's still going to be connected to the home theater. It's just not going to be within the rack. It's going to be in the room. It's probably not in the most I would say nicest place, but it's functional, and it's basically doing the same thing. There was no need for me to have it in the shelf, so it left me a nice clear opening for the amplifier. So I'm going to start moving some of these shelves down. As you can see, I got a lot of cables, a lot of networking stuff back here, and so yeah. And so just a little preview. These are the amplifier pre-outs that I'm going to use for my Pioneer receiver, which I'm going to use to connect the Emotiva. So I just lowered it, and the new amplifier is 8 inches tall, and I got about maybe a little under 10 inches there of clearance. But everything now has a little more room to breathe. So that's nice. I left the receiver the same because the receiver still has about 1.5 inches up there, which is it's been doing fine, and I'm actually going to be putting less load on it with the new amp, so should be good. So today I'm going to do something a little different. I'm actually going to unbox something in the actual theater room, given this is where it's going to end up, and the sheer size of the unit and the weight. I just decided I'm going to keep it in here. So yeah, let's see what's in the box.
What's in the box? What's in the box?
Well, this is my first like home theater amplifier. I mean, it's not my first amplifier. I have a Macintosh amplifier in my rec room that I use for like 2-channel stereo listening. Actually, the shipping was really quick. I was quite impressed. So I saw, I've been eyeing the Emotiva for a while, and I felt like the time was right because they had a 15% off sale. And I was thinking, well, I was gonna buy this. I was thinking between this or the mono price. But then I just went for the Emotiva. I felt like, to be honest, it had a lot to do with the fact that it weighed less. It was a deciding factor, and I think it did. The full the multi-channel amps, the full power amps actually produced. They're rated at slightly higher power, and they use like a Class H power supply, which I kind of liked. Oh, birth certificate. That's cool. I don't know if you can see that there. I'll check that out later. Comes in nice dense foam. Dense packing foam. Comes in wrapped in a nice bag here. This looks like it's, these, I think these are the speaker connections. So I'll pull it out real quick and then show you what it looks like. Let's see, I also like recording in this room because the acoustic panels is just really good for audio. So let's see what's in this accessory pack. Obviously, you got amplifier birth certificate and maybe a instruction manual. It's an amplifier. It's pretty simple. Let's see what we got. Very looks like very high gauge power cable. And if you were wondering if it came with a trigger cable, it does come with a trigger cable, so you don't have to buy that separately. And that's it. So I just set the amp on the side. Just looks like they secured it with some packing tape here. It's not going to harm it. This thing's like a brick. You can tell the quality and weight of this thing. I just put it on one of my seats for now. I mean, it's meant. If this thing can hold me, then I'm sure it can hold 53 pounds. So this is I don't know if I mentioned, this is the 7-channel amp. It has 7 high power amplifiers. Some of these amps, you can get them in different configurations, like the 11-channel amp. I think it comes with 3 high power amps and another 8 lower power amps that only give you 65 watts RMS. I wanted to have full. If I'm gonna get external amplifier, I'm gonna just go all out. I want full power from at least my bed layer for now. I wanted to have high power amplifiers for all 7 bed layer channels, and so yeah, this is really nice. So let's pull this off. It says pull before your first use, so let's let you guys witness that. Here we go. That's nice. All right. Let's turn it around so you can see the connections. I'm honestly happy I went with the Emotiva because it's like almost half the weight as the monoprice amps. This is more than beefy enough, and I think they actually produce slightly more power, like I said. So this has unbalanced inputs for each amp, each of the 7 channels, and balanced inputs. You can use these little selectors to toggle between unbalanced and balanced if you want to go balanced. I'm going to use unbalanced in my setup because I have a receiver with no balanced outputs or pre-outs. Here's the trigger. This is where you plug in your trigger cable that was included. Looks like you can daisy chain them, so you can plug one in and get another one to go out to another amp if you have another amp. which is nice. Looks like you can turn off the status LEDs. I'm gonna leave them on. I think they look cool. Power connector, of course. This looks like some kind of fuse. I guess on-off switch. I guess turns off the unit manually if you want. So all these appear to be towards the unbounds, which I want. The looks like 5-way binding posts. Yeah, you can stick bare cable in there. I mean, I'm gonna use banana plugs. I already have all my connections are set up for banana plugs. So yeah, well, let's get this bad boy in where it's gonna be living, and I'll show you how to connect it up. I already made the perfect spot for it here in my rack. I removed my home theater PC to make way for this. Wow, it barely fits. Very deep unit. Actually, I should have measured that. I just assumed it would fit perfectly, but let me double check the back of it. So this is a huge oversight on my point. I didn't even measure it. I just assumed it would fit nicely. I thought I had a perfectly deep rack here, but it looks like there's this, I don't know, there's this piece of wood here that's kind of blocking. I guess another option would be to put it on one of these shelves, but I don't feel, they're not quite, I mean, this is like 53 pounds, and these are just being held up by a couple of plastic little bits there. I don't know if you can see it, little plastic pieces there, yeah. Let's see what I can do. So I just looked at the back of the receiver, and it looks like I only need to clear about, I don't know, half an inch so that I clear the speaker connection. So I'm thinking about putting this piece of wood underneath the receiver. I mean, it won't be the prettiest thing, but I'll push it as back as I can, just as long as it's sitting on top of the legs, and it should be good enough to allow me to clear it. I'll end up raising the shelf before I actually do this. You know, it's not the prettiest solution, but you really can't see it, especially when you're watching a movie at night. As you can see, now the speaker connectors are clearing the little piece of wood there by, gonna say like not less than 1/4 of an inch. So very close, but still it's working. In order to run the signal from the receiver to the amp, you're gonna have to buy some interconnects, or some basically just some RCA cables. This will run the signal from the receiver down to the amp. So I'm gonna just start. I mean, I'm sorry I can't give you a better view, but unfortunately I don't have a cameraman or something here, so I'm just gonna go. I'm gonna do one at a time here. I'll show you how they look on the amp later. So I already connected the center. Now I'm gonna put in the surround speakers. I'm keeping it simple, just going red to red. And if you hear like a lot of noise in the background, eventually, you know, that's, I guess all my kids are running around upstairs. And I also, we have an HVAC unit in this room, which is the storage room. So it's actually going on right now. Great timing. So if you hear that, I apologize. Sorry, I know that I have a ton of cables back here. It's just the way, the price you pay for performance, I guess. I'm gonna do the back surrounds now. Here, there, I'll give you a better view. You know, I am so sorry for the mess of cables back here. It's just, obviously you can't see, it doesn't look this bad when you're watching a movie. So again, I plugged these two guys here. You can see these are going to be the fronts, this is the center, and then I'm going to just do the back surrounds and surrounds next. Now I have to move the specific speaker cables that I'm going to connect to the amp. I'm going to have to move them down from the receiver to the amplifier down there. And I guess my advice would be just do one speaker at a time. So I'm going to start with the front right and go from there. So again, you can see it there, but the RCA cable, that's red, and right is red. So I'm going to start with the front right, and I'll do the first cable connection, and I'll just do the rest off camera just to speed things up a little. Okay, there's the first one. So let me finish up. Now's a good opportunity for you to double check that your banana plugs are nice and tight. And I just did that on all these just in case. Okay, so now you gotta just look for your trigger cables on your receiver or preamp or processor. And mine are right here where you can see it says trigger out. So I'm gonna use the A one and then run it down to the amp. And you can see these are the trigger inputs for the for the amplifier. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in the trigger cable from the receiver. So it's going to go into the in, and that's it. Now I can turn it on and see if it works. So I'm in my theater room right now, and I just wanted to go over what I'm going to go over what changes I had to make in my home theater receiver menu in order to get this to work right with the new amp. So the first thing I did was I went into and I found preamp mode, and as you can see, I have it set to front and center. You may have more like granular control of all of your pre-outs on your receiver. In mine, you can either select no, the front 2 speakers, or the front plus center. So since I have a 7-channel amp, I still want to use, my receiver has 11 amplifiers, 11 channels of amplification. I only want to use 4 of them because I'm going to be the Emotiva amp. It's going to be providing 7 channels of amplification, so the receiver only has to fill out the last 4. But unfortunately in this receiver I can't, select just the 7 bed layer. I have to either go all no front or front and center. So I turned off as many as I could basically. So that's the first thing I did. After I set up the amp, the first thing I did was I ran the auto calibration in my room again, just to account for any differences in that the Emotiva amp had versus the receiver. So I just wanted to show you the configuration, how I have it set up. I currently have it set up at 7.1.4, which is how many speakers I have, and I have 2 front highs and a top middle. Those are the only speakers that the receiver is actually going to be powering. And I have 2 subs in my room. As far as crossovers, I have the front, the center set to large, and the height set to small, and the surround also small. When you have it set to large, the receiver won't be crossing over the frequency. It'll just be sending the full range signal to the speaker. Since these are tower speakers with built-in subs, and the center actually has a built-in sub, so it can handle. You can set it to large. It's actually if you look at the instruction manual for these speakers, you can see it actually says set them to large. In order for the Emotiva to turn on with your receiver, you have to set up the trigger input. In other words, you plug in the little headphone looking cable into the receiver and out into the amplifier, and you have to set that up here. So you go to trigger 12-volt trigger A. That's where I have it plugged into my receiver. My receiver has 2 trigger outs, and I have it set so that it turns on the amplifier when it sends out as an HDMI signal to the main HDMI port. But you can change that to the sub one, which I'm not using right now, or just off. That gets the job done. It turns on every time. I guess that's about it. That's all you really need to do. That's all I had to do to get this working in my room. Just to demonstrate, if I wanted to, if I only had a 7.1 channel system, I could theoretically, I would be powering all of my speakers through the Emotiva. So what you would do is you would look for, so right now it's set to just the bed layer, there's no heights, so I could go in here. So right now it's set to 7.1, and I'm going to go into preamp mode, and then I can just, in this case, I could select all, because literally all of my 7 speakers are going to be powered by the amplifier. In my case, I'm using the receiver to power the 4, like I said before, the 4 height channels. So I just want to show you that if you set up the trigger to work properly with the receiver to power the amp on, it should just turn on by itself. So I'm gonna hit the power button, and the amp came on, and the little lights should turn blue, meaning they're ready. There you go, you got blue lights, so amps are all powered on and ready to go. So this is just a first look at the amp. If you have any questions about the amp, feel free to leave them in the comments. Really great if you can like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out with the YouTube algorithm. And I'll see you in the next one.